Hey, there we go. I see it lighting up now. I don't know, and it's literally the same microphone that it was set to before. I don't know why it wasn't picking it up before, but it is now.
Hey.
Oh shit.
Got it.
Yeah, there. I got it. I just had to mute on the playback. Hey, haha. So I literally don't know what happened because it said that it was set to my microphone, and then I just set it to my microphone again, and then it started working. It's the same microphone. I don't know why it wasn't working before and it is now, but whatever. It's working now, right? Sorry y'all couldn't hear me before. I'm probably just gonna have to trim the live stream later, unless whoever watches it later wants to sit through several minutes of silence at the beginning. How's everybody doing in the live chat? Hey, all right, let's see. We've got Casey, we've got Doorknob Head, we've got Summon Sloth, we've got Sassy. Everybody is here. Thank you for coming. So, in case, yeah, Jehovah did it. I'm sure. So this is Nathan. This is my wonderful fiance.
Hello.
Yes. Can you guys hear Nathan okay? Yes? Maybe? No?
I can speak up a little bit more.
Okay. Well, so basically, here is what happened. I'm sure you guys all heard about this protest that I have been organizing for 2 weeks, something like that. I've been working on this for the past couple of weeks. It finally happened on Sunday, and I wanted to do a scripted video about how it went, but at the same time, it didn't feel right because there's so many things, and I wanted to have Nathan with me because obviously he was also there, and I wanted a second person's perspective to help me remember and kind of tell everything that happened. So yeah, we're just what were you thinking before the protest about how things were going to go?
I thought we were going to have a lot more public interaction than we did. I expected more people to be walking around downtown.
On Sunday.
Yeah, I can't say looking back that I'm shocked, but
Oh yeah, and just to be clear, because I don't think I said it, so in case you don't know, what we were protesting was the Jehovah's Witness convention in Toledo, Ohio. That's what we were outside protesting. So yeah, there probably could have been a little bit more publicity, I guess. I kind of expected, well, I half expected, I guess, for there to be kind of some news coverage.
Yeah.
But I also didn't reach out to the media ahead of time. So, if there wasn't any of that, it was kind of on me. But I mean, yeah.
There was a WTOL van that drove by a couple times.
Really? I didn't see it.
They had, it wasn't like, it was weird because it wasn't like the news crew van, like that they would put all the equipment in, but it had the stuff on it.
Mm-hmm. Well,
it was like a Jeep, really.
Yeah. Well,
really weird.
I know for a fact that there is a Jehovah's Witness who was probably at that convention, who is a news anchor for Channel 11 in Toledo. So it's probably for the best. It would have been kind of weird if he had to come out and interview me. Like, that would have been hella awkward, because it would have been like, hey, Rachel, what the fuck are you doing out here? Toledo wants to know. That wouldn't have, I feel like that wouldn't have gone well. Not that witnesses say fuck, but so before the protest, I was super nervous, super anxious, but overall it went well. There was some good and some bad, and there was some unexpected kind of pushback. And there was some stuff that was like, holy shit, I can't believe this is happening. But yeah, it was kind of all over the place. It didn't meet my expectations at all because I didn't know what to expect. And a bunch of stuff happened that was completely random. So let's start from the beginning. So there's another Jehovah's Witness protester named Sharon Tyson. You can find her on Facebook and Twitter. I believe that her Twitter is Jehovah's Witness Survivors Original or something like that. I'll have to look that up later and maybe put the link in the description to her Twitter. But she has been protesting for like 10 years. And when I initially made the Facebook event for the protest, one of my ex-Jehovah's Witness friends was like, hey, do you know who Sharon is? And I was like, no. And she was like, well, she does this kind of thing all the time, so you should definitely get her on board with this. And by the time I even saw that message that she had sent me telling me I should get in touch with Sharon Tyson, Sharon already friended me. She was already all over this. You know, she is on top of the ex-Jehovah's Witness protest game, right? She was on it. And she reached out to me, and we talked about different things that we could do. I brought with me, I made t-shirts for both me and Nathan. Well, I didn't make them, but I bought them and I designed them. So we had t-shirts, we had flyers, we had signs, and Sharon came and she had a megaphone and she had signs and she had small flyers. And a couple of my friends came. One of them is an ex-Jehovah's Witness and her boyfriend, and they came with signs and banners of their own. Hey IQ, what's up? So there was, all in all, the max turnout for the amount of protesters we had was 9 people, which I thought was really great. When I was actually, going to that convention center for my own conventions, when I was a Jehovah's Witness, all of the protests that I saw outside were like really, really small. So like 9 people was pretty fucking good. I was really excited about that. What did you think going into it about, how we had everything set up? And
I thought we were about as prepared as we could have been, especially for the amount of people we had. We were definitely over prepared in some ways, considering how much water I bought.
Yeah, Nathan brought 3 cases of water bottles. I told him we needed water bottles, so he bought 3 cases, and I was like, I'm expecting like 20 people max, which is like, that is a very high estimate. We are not going to need that many water bottles. So we still have 2 cases of water bottles sitting around, but whatever.
But yeah, I thought the only thing that I would say didn't go the way that I might do next time, or that, like, with the benefit of hindsight.
In what sense?
Like the thing that I'm stumbling over my words here. The thing that I might do differently next time, maybe if it were up to me, would be to maybe be a little bit more mobile.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that we did kind of over prepare as far as, well, let me put it this way. We bought little necklace fans. We bought a cooler that we could, the kind that, you has wheels and a long handle so you can drag it behind you on wheels. And we had all these water bottles, and we had sunscreen, and we had like 9 signs. It might have been less, maybe like 7.
Yeah.
We had like 7 signs, and we didn't even end up using most of them because we couldn't bring them all. Like, we were way over prepared, but honestly, I would rather have been over prepared than under prepared. I would rather have had too much stuff at some points than wishing that I'd brought more stuff, because our car was fairly close. It was maybe like a block or 2 away. So we brought some of our stuff back to our car when we did want to be more mobilized. But yeah, I think that just kind of bringing just enough stuff for ourselves and then having a little more extra in the car. Organizing the protest wasn't difficult, because it was pretty much just a matter of getting the word out and making sure of things like parking and the timing, and letting the police know ahead of time, hey, this is where we're going to be.
Bathrooms were difficult.
Yeah, bathrooms was a thing that was difficult. And there was really, technically we could have tried to go into the convention center, but that would have been so much of an extra hassle, I'm sure.
That would have been so awkward.
Yeah. So we didn't even bother with that option. But we were originally going to be there for 4 hours. We ended up being there for 5. Like maybe a little over 5 actually. But so when we get there, Sharon is already there. She has her megaphone. She is broadcasting live on Facebook, and she starts her spiel about how, Jehovah's Witness organization is covering up child sexual abuse. And right away, we see opposition. Right away, there's attendants that stand outside the doors to the convention center. And they immediately all retreated inside. They did not want to be outside when Sharon had her megaphone and they could potentially hear her. They immediately retreated inside. And we arrived very shortly before the lunch intermission. So every year there's ice cream trucks and hot dog stands that will set up outside the convention center in preparation for the lunch rush of Jehovah's Witnesses that are going to be coming out and walking around. And because we were there, the ice cream truck did not stick around for very long. And the hot dog people were just really fucking mad at us. They were just like yelling at us and stuff like that from across the way. And one of them actually came up to me and Nathan later on and basically just told how unchristian we were. And I was holding my love never shuns sign. And he was kind of like, well, it seems like you're shunning them, aren't you? And I was like, no. I've made it pretty clear to my family that I'd like to be a part of their lives, and they're not going to let me. It was clearly he was just mad because we were in the way of his financial interests, and he was trying to justify it to himself that why he was so mad at us, because he didn't know us or our story, and I tried to give him one of our flyers. He came up and asked us why we were doing it. And I was giving him a flyer that literally explains, why are we protesting Jehovah's Witnesses? That's literally written at the top of the flyer. Why are we protesting Jehovah's Witnesses? And he was like, no. And I was like, okay, so you don't really want to know why we're doing this. You just want to come over here and antagonize us because we're driving away your business. Okay.
And he said something, too, that so many people said that day, and it got me every single time, was when we explained that we were protesting, at least in part because of the child sex abuse issue, and that they cover it up, or that the Watchtower is covering it up, that he said, well, why aren't you protesting the Catholic Church then?
Right.
Which so many people said that day, and it got me so mad every time because, for one, the Catholic Church didn't have an event in town that day.
Right, that we could be protesting.
People know that the Catholic Church has a scandal. This is not as well known because the only thing that most people know about Jehovah's Witnesses is that they knock on your doors and maybe bug you a little bit, but other than that, they seem nice. And this event gets a lot of positive press coverage. That was one of the reasons I think you told me you wanted to do it at first too. So we were kind of trying to combat that in part because it is contributing to people's generally positive what's the word I'm looking for? Positive view.
Reputation?
Yes. The positive reputation of the Watchtower Society.
Right.
And on top of all that, the Catholic Church I don't recall that they specifically had the names of the people. I might be wrong about that.
Here's the thing. I feel like it literally doesn't matter at all. Like, the fact that the Catholic Church also has a problem with child sex abuse is irrelevant to the fact that we are protesting the child sexual abuse cover-ups that happen in the Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, I couldn't understand why people kept bringing it up, like you said. Like, what is the relevancy of that? Like, okay, another organization has the same problem. It's a problem, though. So we're protesting it. Like, that doesn't mean that we don't care at all that the Catholic... Like, nothing about our protest says, oh, we don't care that this is a problem with the Catholic Church. We're only mad at the Jehovah's Witnesses for it. Like, what kind of... That doesn't even make any sense. What is this a whataboutismness? Why is that even being brought up? And, I will say that is definitely something I didn't expect was so much pushback from the public, from people who just... I guess they were just mad that we were protesting, or people, and there were people who were like Bible studies. There were people who came up to us who said that they were raised witnesses, but they weren't like active or anything. And I'm going to put a link to the flyer that I made because I made it on Google Docs. But needless to say, it wasn't antagonistic. It was just informative. I made it very clear on all of those issues that Jehovah's Witnesses aren't bad people, but they have bad policies that we are trying to see reform of. So when people take a look at this flyer and they just read the words child sexual abuse, they're like, oh no, Jehovah's Witnesses aren't child predators. I'm like, did you even read that? Because the first thing that I said under that paragraph about child sexual abuse is, I'm not saying that Jehovah's Witnesses are permissive towards child predators. I'm saying they have a problem of not reporting to the police.
But people read that and
they're just like, they're not pedophiles. It's like, you are completely missing the point. First of all, you don't know a pedophile by looking at them. Just because somebody is nice doesn't mean that they're not a pedophile. And it was just really, I just was amazed by the amount of pushback that we got, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like, from, and there was a guy that basically told us that, basically accused us of being conspiracy theorists. Like, oh yeah, well, you shouldn't believe everything we read on the internet. And it's like, there are news websites on the internet, my dude.
Not even just that, but some of the people there experienced I think somebody there experienced just about everything we talked about. People there had relatives that died of the blood issue. There were people there who had the people that molested them in the convention.
Right. So this guy came up to us and he was like, yeah, that thing happened, where he read it. And he was like, oh no, I was just in there. Those people are peaceful people. They're not pedophiles. And I was like, there is a guy in there right now who raped my friend. Okay. Like, I don't know how you can just stand here and be like, I can speak for all of those people. None of them are pedophiles. Doesn't happen. Like, and the point is not that there are pedophiles, because yes, there are pedophiles in every religious group, probably. At least some. The problem is the cover-ups.
Yeah.
The problem is the not reporting to police, which is systemic. It's not just a couple of cases. That's the problem. And I feel like I made that pretty clear. And yet, people just take one look at the flyer and they're like, no. And I'm like, how do you know? How do you know? Do you think I came all the way out here because I went to some shady-ass website that said Jehovah's Witnesses are full of pedophiles? Mwahaha. They just are all pedophiles. And I was just like, this website is right. They are all pedophiles. I'm going to go out and protest. Like, what did they... I don't know how people think that I came to that conclusion, but half of them didn't really stop to ask.
Yeah.
And it was just really frustrating because I'm like, you've already made up your mind that there's no reason for us to be out here. So I don't know why you're even asking me why we're out here.
Yeah, I have to assume that they saw us protesting and just assumed we were protesting the whole religion and deciding, like, we're telling you, you cannot believe this because of that, which is not what we were trying to do.
Again, I feel like the things that nobody said that, there weren't any signs that were just like Jehovah's Witnesses suck, or Jehovah's Witnesses are evil, or Jehovah's Witnesses are going to go to hell, or anything like that. We were talking about specific issues within the organization. And I don't remember who it was. Was it maybe GM Skeptic who made a video about how people personalize their religious beliefs? Or he made that point, maybe.
So, like, why smart people...
I don't remember. But the point... I don't remember who it was. But the point is, I think part of the problem is that people internalize and personalize their religious beliefs so much that you really cannot... For some people, they cannot distinguish between criticizing religious doctrines or religious policies and criticizing the people that actually follow it. Like, to them, there is no difference between those two. So they just see us protesting child sexual abuse, and they're like, oh, so you hate Jehovah's Witnesses? They're so nice. And it's like, you are so missing the point.
Yeah.
So missing the point. Yeah. Also, hi, Unholy Sarah. Thank you for coming. Sorry.
Also, on the topic of people thinking that we were saying that all Jehovah's Witnesses are pedophiles, do you want to talk about the person who did?
So,
Not just like
this is one of
bash them, but like
this is one of the problems
that
when I initially decided I wanted to do this protest, I specifically wanted to be an example of apostates are not crazy, we're not angry, we're not raving, we're not foaming at the mouth. We have legitimate problems and we can present them logically and rationally. And I failed at that as far as this protest goes. I failed at delivering on that because I did not make it clear to all of the other protesters that that was a priority. I didn't make it clear to them that I wanted to be as non-confrontational as possible, that I didn't want there to be shouting. That's why we had a megaphone, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You can talk calmly into a megaphone and still be heard. You don't have to shout into a megaphone to be heard. And I failed at that. You know, it did get confrontational. People were getting all up in the witnesses' faces, and there was this one lady that joined randomly who pretty much borderline was harassing people. Like, she literally came off the street, and she had studied with Jehovah's Witnesses a while back, but she was never a Jehovah's Witness. And she just was a complete loose cannon.
Mm-hmm.
She was like swearing and harassing people, and we had to get her to stop. But she just kind of hung around us, and it was like, I admired her passion, and I admired that she was the kind of person that could just see a cause she could get behind and just jump behind it. But man, did she do it the complete wrong way.
Yeah.
You know, it was... And there was another protester who basically one of the people who was apparently studying with the witnesses or was invited to the convention had come out and was talking to us. And he was like, oh, well, you know, the witnesses are good people, you know? And, you know, they're not pedophiles. And she was just like, yes, they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that is not true. Like, that's literally not true. They're not all pedophiles. They have pedophiles in their group, like any other group. What we are protesting is not that they are all pedophiles. It is that they have a specific problem with not reporting to the police and with covering up the abuse. And And you know what? I still blame myself for that because, like I said, I did not make it clear to protesters, to other people, to all of the people that were there, that being non-confrontational, sticking to the facts, not yelling, not getting up in people's faces, that was a priority. That was the number one priority, and I did not make that clear. So, you know, so people protested the way that they thought that they should protest. And I can't really blame them for that because, like I said, I didn't tell them otherwise, and it was my protest. So if I wanted things to go a specific way, I should have made that clear. And next time I will. Next time I will make sure that, like, we started out across the street from the convention center. And by the end of it, half of the group was over on the other side where the witnesses were coming out of the building. And I never wanted that. I never wanted us to be on that side of the street. I never wanted us to be that close to them. I never wanted them to be in their faces. I wanted us to stay where we were. And I mean, we were still there, regardless of whether we were not in their face. But
yeah.
It wasn't a net loss or anything. I think that overall the protest went really well. I think that it was a net positive, but there were definitely specific things that I wish had gone better.
Mm-hmm.
Because if my goal was to try and prove that apostates aren't angry and crazy, that was not accomplished at all by this protest.
There was at least one person that was not a witness, but he saw our protest and we talked to him.
Right.
That did say, you know, that did pay attention to everything we had to say and definitely made it clear, like, I'm not going to, you know, have any part in this religion now. Which, you know, I think is
yeah. If that happened to even one person, then it was totally worth having. And, you know, that was part of the reason that I made my flyers the way that I did, to be very specifically informative. And I even opened up with saying, we know that Jehovah's Witnesses are generally nice, genuinely nice people, but the religion that they are promoting is actively harming them and the people around them. And here's why. And that was what my message was. It was not really talking shit about Jehovah's Witnesses, but discussing very specific issues. And yeah, next time I want to get more of that. Hey, Ocean. Next time I really want to hammer that point home to protesters is that, look, this is my protest. I organized it. And if you don't want to do it this way, if you want to shout at people, if you want to get in people's faces and shove your sign in their face and make sure they fucking read it, then you don't need to come to this protest, because that's not what we're doing here.
There was a protest the day before that people were doing that.
Yeah, apparently. And, oh yeah, so the witnesses were on their guard because apparently there had been a protest. The convention is 3 days long, and we only protested the last day of it. But apparently the day before, there had been some other set of protesters, and they got the police called on them, and apparently they were just, getting all up in people's faces and stuff. But, so they were on high guard. Like I said, when we first arrived, all of the attendants that were at the doors went inside. But very shortly after that, one of my PMO squad insiders that was in the convention messaged me and said, hey, all of the attendants are standing in front of the windows. And I looked in, and the windows are very tinted. I couldn't really get a good picture of it.
Yeah.
I could only barely see it, but sure enough, they were lined up inside of there so that nobody could see out, which is just ludicrous if you try to make the claim that you're not a cult. Like, we're not a cult, but we do have all of our guys standing in front of the windows so that the people in here can't see the protesters outside and what their signs say. And they were redirecting traffic to the other entrance. They were doing everything they could to keep the witnesses away from us. And it was just like, I could understand even having the attendants outside while the witnesses were out having lunch and stuff. Because if they think that we're going to be rowdy or whatever, then I could understand maybe doing that for protection. But standing in front of the windows, that's censorship, plain and simple. There's no other way to explain that. I mean, that was crazy to me because I had never seen that before. I had never seen that before with, people protesting outside the convention. I'd never see them actually block people visually from being able to see the protesters. And half of us, Sharon and my other two friends, they went around to the other side of the building because they were redirecting them all to go out the other entrance because we were in the front entrance. And when they went back there, they literally had like 12 brothers on top of Sharon. Yeah. They had a bunch of guys standing around her to make, and I don't remember if it was Cora who's thought of it, but somebody started using the term Watchtower Mafia, and that was really fucking funny because it really was like the Watchtower Mafia. They were like, okay, come on, I'm like a 40-something-year-old woman, and I have a couple of 20-year-olds with me, and we're holding like paper signs. What do you think you need to protect yourself from? You don't like what? Oh, armed guards? Like really? Like what? Is this what we're doing right now? Like, why?
We're starting the Great Tribulation today.
Yeah, I guess they thought that we were starting.
All 9 of us. Let's go. We're gonna take down every single witness. We got this.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just crazy. It was crazy how much security they thought that they needed, and how culty it was. I mean, it was crazy. I was just like astounded because I'd never seen something so blatantly censorship-y that the witnesses had done when I was in. And I kind of was like, would I have woken up if I saw that? Are other witnesses going to wake up because they see that and they're like, that ain't right? I don't know. Probably not, but here's
we must,
hoping.
We must have been making a pretty good point, though, if they didn't block the windows for the people standing outside being like, Jesus died on a cross, not on a stake.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing in the world. They didn't block the windows for those people. We were holding up love never shuns, like 3 words, and, love never protects child predators, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they blocked the windows for
They
that.
literally blocked
want
the
people
windows.
to see it. So, I don't know. I feel like we must have been doing something right if they were going to go that far, because clearly they thought we were a cut above those other people to prevent people from seeing us. Because like you said, it would have been one thing if they were just outside to say that they were like protecting us in case protecting the brothers and sisters in case we got violent, but they weren't. They were inside and outside at one point.
They were. It was crazy. They were lined up inside in front of the windows so that people couldn't see out. It was crazy. And at some point they called the cops on us, but it was they had no grounds to call the cops on us because we weren't doing anything illegal. So the cops were super polite and nice. They were like, yeah, we're just trying to make sure that and they talked to me because I was the organizer, and they initially went to Sharon because she had the megaphone and that made her seem like she was in charge, which I totally understand. But she was like, nah, she organized this. And they went to me and they were like, okay, well, we're just making sure that that you're up to speed on everything and that, and everything is cool. And do you have any concerns or whatever? And everything's okay. And they apparently the protesters were only allowed to stand on certain parts of the sidewalk. So they let them know that. And then they complied and it was fine. So they were like, yeah, is everything okay? And I'm like, yep, everything's okay. I made it pretty clear that, this meant to be a peaceful protest. We're following all the rules and stuff. And they were like, yep, everything's good. Well, just wanted to make sure we got your side of the story. And they were totally cool. They didn't care. They could see like, well, they're not breaking any laws. So.
And they had preference to us because we're both part of Satan's system of things.
So. Right. We're both, the cops and us are both part of Satan's system of things. So naturally,
we're going to be on the same side when we're hunting down everyone.
Son of a bitch. I'm glad that you find the Jehovah's Witness teachings so ridiculously funny.
Because, I don't know. Like, I just never thought about that. And so my first real exposure to the teachings, I mean, I had heard, for the first couple months we were dating, the gist of it. But I didn't know anything really about
Navardi is here. Hi, Meredith.
Or at least how they taught people that it was until the 2018 convention.
Oh, yeah.
So the bunker videos were the first exposure I ever had to that. And it was so weird to me because I guess to me, I thought, especially with the political climate at the time, that if anything that was going to happen like to Muslims in Western nations, or I guess I did not expect that to happen to atheists because it's such a ridiculous situation. But like people are definitely a lot more violent towards atheists than they ever have been to Jehovah's Witnesses, except for maybe ex-witnesses who are upset. But like just the general public doesn't really care too much as long as you're a Christian religion.
Right.
And so seeing bunker videos as my first exposure to what the Great Tribulation was supposed to be, I was so like blown away that was what millions of people really thought was going to happen to them.
Yeah. If you guys don't know about the bunker videos that Jehovah's Witnesses were shown at their convention a few years back, basically they think that soon, and by soon I mean like within the next 5 to 10 years soon, they think the governments, all of the governments, are going to completely turn against religion, all religion. Everybody's going to be secular, which to me sounds like, hell yeah, but not really, because they're going to be banning all religion as opposed to being like, we're secular because we're like, I don't know, because it phased out or whatever. Like, I'd be okay with that, I guess. I guess I don't really technically really want everything to be secular necessarily. Like, I don't want religion to be banned, definitely. But Jehovah's Witnesses believe that in the next few years, all religions are going to be banned, and they're going to be the only ones still standing, and the government's going to be so opposed to them, and they're going to be, like, hunting them down with assault rifles, and they're going to have to, like, hide in their basements and all this shit.
Have, like, code words and secret knocks.
Yeah, and they're going to have to, like, start putting all of their information about the people in their congregation through the shredder so that the governments can't get them. And it's absurd. But that's how Doomsday this cult is. That's how, like, they are literally telling people that is going to happen and they need to be prepared for it. So, and they expect this in the next 5 to 10 years or so. Like, they expect this to happen within their lifetime.
Everybody in the world is going to be an atheist within the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, right.
Just imagine that. Somebody really suggested.
You know what? It is not even that. What's even more absurd to me is that they think that by banning religion, everyone will actually be banned in their religious beliefs. Like, can you imagine people that are just, people that aren't religious, they're just spiritual. Do you think those people are going to go full atheist just because religion gets banned?
Yeah.
Do you think that, somebody who is just, like, I don't know, casually pagan is going to be like, guess I'm not, like, gonna pray to Odin or Freya anymore because religion's banned? Like, how are they gonna stop that? How are the governments aren't gonna be able to stop people from holding God beliefs, from being religious or being spiritual or having any of those beliefs. They can't stop them from believing things. But Jehovah's Witnesses legitimately believe that they are going to be the only ones that are still religious. They legitimately believe this.
Mm-hmm.
They're the only religion that's going to be still standing when the world bans religions. And it's just absurd. But that was... Yeah. How did we get on this topic?
I don't remember, but divine disbelief just threw out that it's basically going to be that God removes our free will, I think. Kind of like the Pharaoh, which I'm almost 100% certain is... I'm not trying to say you can't convince me otherwise, but I'm pretty well convinced that that's pretty much just Pharaoh's free will removed, and that will still be the case if God were to intervene and just decide that everybody in Satan's system of things is going to go secular.
Yeah. So let's see. What else are we missing about the protest? We covered the craziness. We covered the
hot dog guy.
Yeah. There was a good decent amount of people who just passing by us were like giving us the nod or the thumbs up or the and
honking their horn.
Yeah, honking their horn at us. And there was one lady that came up to me and she actually stopped me and like thanked me specifically for doing this protest. And she was like, I live in the apartment building right there and I've been watching the Jehovah's Witnesses go in and out for like days and it's driving me crazy. I'm an ex-Jehovah's Witness and it's just like, oh, people don't know how messed up this is. And they're just allowed to do this and to be here and everybody's cool with it. And it's crazy. Hold on. There, Navardia, now you have a wrench. Yeah, so, and I appreciated the people that kind of came in and were just like, the people that were ex-Jehovah's Witnesses and the people that they were like, yes. And there was also, I talked to a lady who, she asked me to summarize really briefly what we were protesting about, and I told her, primarily about the child abuse thing. And she was like, hey, I was sexually abused as a child. That 2-witness rule, that is clearly transparently messed up. Yeah, that's bad. I already don't agree with the Jehovah's Witnesses, but, now I understand something else that is personal to me about why I should never be a Jehovah's Witness. So it was like, there was definitely some positive feedback from the public. And like Nathan said earlier, there was this guy who took a flyer and then he came back later after reading the flyer and he said that he specifically said that he liked how the flyer was informative but not like antagonistic at all of the Jehovah's Witnesses. And he stayed and talked with us for quite a while, getting our stories about our experiences as Jehovah's Witnesses and why we left and the dangers of the religion. And yeah, and we had a few good experiences like that, where of people who listened, people who took flyers, people who just kind of went, okay, I can see why you would be protesting that. And even if that was the only thing that they got out of it, they knew something before about Jehovah's Witnesses that they did not previously. And they had the means to specifically research those topics if they wanted to find out more, or if they might have doubted our information or something like that, you know? So, yeah, I think that overall, because of those people, it was worth it.
There was a couple that came up to me, and I asked them, could I give you some information on why we're protesting today? And their response was, it was positive, but it also felt like I was a little kid with a lemonade stand, and they're like, why don't you tell us why we should buy your lemonade? Like, I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, or if I was maybe giving a report at a science fair and they were a parent and like, tell me about your thing. Like, that's how it was.
It was kind of patronizing.
Yeah. And they heard it and were like, wow, I never knew that. Thank you very much. And I don't know why I get wrapped up in that. I've been thinking about it a bit over the last couple days.
That's kind of funny.
But they heard the information and accepted it positively. And I assumed that they took me seriously, and maybe that was just the way they talked. But they were the people that stuck out to me, other than the really rude ones. And the guy that came back because he was the only person that recognized that our paper was glossy. Our pamphlets were printed on like glossy paper like you'd find in a textbook. And nobody mentioned that. But I thought it was really nice. It made it comfortable to hold and look professional.
Yes, that's true. And it was an extra 25 cents per page that we printed out. But I gave away probably about half those flyers, which I was pretty happy about. I feel like all in all, we got the word out there.
Yeah.
And we made the Jehovah's Witnesses show their hand, because standing in front of the windows and stuff, that was it. That was them showing their hand, like, oh, we can't let people see this. Cult. But there was, I'm trying to remember. I'm sure that there was one or two other things that I wanted to mention.
I think it'd be interesting maybe to talk about lunch. We split up to get the other entrance.
Yeah. Did we talk about, I think I mentioned
a little
that already.
bit. I don't remember. Sorry, but we did this. Did we do the same thing at the end?
For a little bit, but they ended up coming back because all the action was in the front.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I saw my grandmother there. While the witnesses were exiting, and we were standing on the corner, and she ended up going to that corner to cross the street. And I don't know if she saw me, because she didn't make eye contact with me. So if she did see me, she made no indication, obviously, because she was shunning me. And it was, yeah, that was definitely like a reminder of like, wow, that sucks. So I have somebody in the chat asking about necessarily why we were protesting. We were protesting a couple of different issues. Child sexual abuse cover-ups are a big problem within the Jehovah's Witness organization. The fact that they don't take blood transfusions, and they tell their kids not to take blood transfusions. They shun ex-members, including their own family members, to the point where a lot of ex-members of Jehovah's Witnesses have committed suicide. It's complete ostracization. Whatever. Yeah. They completely ostracize those people. They don't talk to them at all. And the fact that they are a cult is also another thing, because that's kind of the overarching theme, is like, hey, this is a cult, to the point where they can convince you, not to do a life-saving medical procedure, or to the point where they can tell you never to talk to your own family again and you'll do it. You know, definitely very cult things. So yeah, we were protesting those things specifically. Yeah, that's why we were protesting. Basically, it was mostly those 4 reasons.
But we also, we made a point to say you're allowed to believe what you want. There just needs to be these reforms within the religion.
Ideally, I had kind of 2 goals. I wanted the Jehovah's Witnesses to see what was a part of their own religion and make them think about, because the problem with the Jehovah's Witness religion is that, again, because it's so cult-like, there isn't a lot of room for reform. There isn't a lot of room for speaking negatively about the rules or wanting things to change, because all of the direction comes from the governing body, and the governing body gets it from God. Therefore, all of their rules are correct, and you shouldn't be asking to change them. So to be completely honest, as much as I would love to see reform, I do not expect it, simply because of the way that the Jehovah's Witnesses make their rules and the way that the organization is structured. It's highly unlikely, unless the governing body themselves are unless it's brought to their attention to the point where they can't ignore it. And even then, they might still just be like, nah, fuck it. But yeah, the way that the organization is. I honestly don't expect reform, but at the very least, I would like Jehovah's Witnesses to see what it is that they're a part of and some of the major problems. And if they can recognize that those are big problems that they shouldn't just be okay with, maybe they'll leave. Or maybe a member of the public who is not yet a Jehovah's Witness will be like, wow, this is really dangerous. I'm never going to get involved with Jehovah's Witnesses. So if I'm helping somebody to leave the organization, or I'm keeping someone from ever joining, those are the more likely positive outcomes. But ideally, reform to the religion itself would be great, but that's very, very unlikely.
Yeah. I think, there might be a best case scenario, and I would say it's very unlikely that maybe we could convince, if anybody would ever listen to the kind of things we're saying,
right?
Or not just us, just the whole XJW community. If that was heard by current Jehovah's Witnesses, that maybe enough people could go inactive,
right,
or something like a union.
Yeah, I think, but the thing is,
everybody would have to do that.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is the Jehovah's Witness structure doesn't work that way. They would all just get disfellowshipped.
Yeah.
They wouldn't listen because of people on the inside. They would just be like, apostate, boom.
But if you had enough people, I'm talking more than a realistic number of people, because the Watchtower Society relies on the donations, and also for the free labor, so they can sell their Kingdom Halls and build new ones for free, practically. All that stuff is where they get their money. So if you had enough people leave to where that system wasn't sustainable, they would either have to do the reforms that they know will bring people back in, or I don't really know what other choice they'd have, or find a new way to make money, which seems unlikely.
Yeah. I do remember at least one last thing that I want to talk about, which was the Jehovah's Witness woman who talked to us very briefly. During the lunch intermission, one of the Jehovah's Witnesses had to walk by us to get to wherever she was going, and she was just scowling the whole time. But at the time, Nathan was holding a sign that says, love
never protects
love never protects child predators. And if you were keeping up at all with Jehovah's Witness stuff, you'd probably know that a couple of weeks ago they had a Watchtower article. The Watchtower is studied by all the Jehovah's Witnesses every week, and it's the same Watchtower. So all the Jehovah's Witnesses around the world studied this Watchtower about child sexual abuse, and how they're doing a great job, basically, at at keeping kids safe, or so they claimed. Basically, they said that elders endeavor to report to the police where it's required for them to do so, which is just a complete cop-out. Endeavor to. Endeavor to what? Pick up the phone and call 911? How much effort do you have to put in?
We try to do the right thing when we have to.
Yeah, but the facts are that even in places where they are legally required to report crime, to report child sexual abuse to the police, they often don't. Because when they get these accusations, they call the branch office, and the branch office tells them whether or not they should talk to the police. And 9 times out of 10, they say don't. So, you know, the elders are just doing what they're told to do. Not that that really clears them of anything, but they just, I mean, they don't. They routinely do not report to the police. And
if they're told not to, and they do anyway, they get disfellowshipped.
Right. And if you are told not to report to the police and you do, you can get disfellowshipped and shunned.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a problem that has been going on for years. They also have the 2-witness rule, which basically means that if there aren't 2 witnesses to a sin, they won't have a judicial committee. That doesn't have any bearing on whether or not they report the crime, but they don't do that anyway. So the 2-witness rule doesn't even apply to whether or not they report crime. It just applies to if they're going to disfellowship the person and keep them out of the congregation so they don't have access to those kids. But even then, even if they did process a child predator judicially, they still might not report to the police. That person can get reinstated. That person will not be on any kind of sex offender list, so they can still hurt other kids outside of the congregation. They just have they don't think that they have any responsibility to report, no matter how many people that person could potentially continue to hurt. Mm-hmm. And it's utterly ridiculous. So, backtracking, this Jehovah's Witness woman stops when she's about to cross the street, and she looks at Nathan, and she's like, you know, we just had a Watchtower article about that 2 weeks ago. And I was like, yeah, and it totally did not negate the problem with the 2-witness rule. And she's like, what's the 2-witness rule? And it was like, she doesn't even know what I'm talking about. That was mentioned in the Watchtower, that she is saying, oh, well, we just studied that, and we know that it's not a problem. And she doesn't even know what the 2-witness rule is. I had to tell her. And she still was kind of like, whatever. But it was like, it was maddening. Because it was like, you're telling us, oh, well, we already know that's not a problem. We had a whole Watchtower about it.
They put it in a magazine, so it's okay.
Right. They put it in a magazine, so it's okay. And yet they addressed it by basically saying, and that whole Watchtower article was a total cop-out. It didn't address anything. It didn't fix anything. Yeah. And the fact that she just cited it was like, well, you know, we just had this Watchtower article about child sexual abuse. And it's like, yeah, it didn't change any of the problems that we're talking about, unfortunately. Nothing in that Watchtower addressed any of the problems that we're currently having, because the fact of the matter is they're not reporting, even if they say that they are. It's not happening. That's the problem.
Somebody's asking about the 2-witness rule in the chat. Somebody's asking.
Yes, the 2-witness rule. It does mean basically, it's not. It had the 2-witness rule has nothing to do with whether or not they report the crime. It has to do with whether or not they have a judicial committee to disfellowship, basically excommunicate the person who has perpetrated the crime, or really in their minds the sin. Basically, if somebody commits a serious sin and they don't confess to that sin themselves, there have to be 2 witnesses to that sin in order for them to have a judicial meeting about it. And obviously, child predators usually don't have a second witness with them when they're raping and molesting children. So, yeah, basically, there has been years and years of children making accusations about people in their congregations, and the elders just completely ignoring them because they don't have a second witness. And it's bad. Yeah. I mean, and they said in the Watchtower article, well, whether or not there's 2 witnesses has no bearing on whether or not we report. And it's like, okay, so does that mean you're going to report every single time? No. Okay, so that has nothing to do with it. That doesn't fix anything. All right. It's very frustrating. And Yeah, it was just weird. A lot of people kind of treated us like we were standing there being conspiracy theorists. Like we were just pulling this information out of our asses. And it's literally like they just doubted us and didn't look into it any further. They were just like, yeah, Jehovah's Witnesses are good people. They're not pedophiles. Bye. And it's like, that's not what we're saying. But okay.
Yeah.
And that was frustrating, but there were definitely enough people who got the message or who were in support of our protest. There was one lady that drove by, and I don't even know who she was. I don't know if she was a witness or what, but she just drove by and she yelled at us, "Get a job, get a life." We were like,
it's Sunday. How many? I mean, not to say that nobody works on Sundays, but like a lot of jobs make it possible for you to get a Sunday off. Like that's a really easy thing to do. That's probably the easiest day of the week to not work.
Right. It was
for most jobs. Like
I don't even know if she really understood what we were protesting. I don't know if she was just an asshole. Like I don't know. Some people just seemed to be opposed to, like I was saying earlier, some people just were like, "Oh, you're protesting a religion? It's not very Christian of you. It's not very nice." It's like, we're not protesting the whole damn religion. We're protesting child abuse within the religion. We're protesting children being martyred because they're not allowed to take blood transfusions in this religion. I feel like that's a pretty stand-up thing to protest. I feel like if we didn't protest that, we were just sitting on our asses at home, that would be worse.
Yeah, but what about the Catholic Church?
Yeah. Everybody's saying, like, I can't believe that came up more than once.
I know.
People being like, well, why, with this child abuse problem, why aren't you protesting the Catholic Church? Like, maybe I will. I don't know. But right now, there's a Jehovah's Witness convention, and they also have this problem. So I'm protesting here. Thank you.
And most of the people there were ex-Jehovah's Witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
I've used this analogy with you, so I don't know if you have any issues with it. But if I'm in a room and somebody punches some guy over there in the face, and then somebody else punches me in the face, I'm going to react a lot more immediately to the person who punched me in the face. I'm still upset that somebody else maybe got punched, assuming it was all for no reason.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm handling the fact that I've just been punched in the face, which, not to say that wasn't important that somebody else got hit, but
yeah, there's only so many.
My personal reaction, yeah.
That's one of the problems with the kind of whataboutisms of that kind of thing is, like, you can't protest every issue that exists. You know? You've got to pick a few that you really care about personally if you want to get involved and make a difference. You can't throw yourself into everything. You know? Like, I care about climate change. I don't want the world to end, but that's not, like, my priority. As far as things that I care about that I am going to put my time and energy into working against, which, like, I'll do my own part, but I'm probably not going to be at any environmental rallies. It's not because I don't care. It's because I have other issues that I have personally put myself into that it's just like, you can't be that invested in every single issue. So being like, well, what about this other problem? It's like, that is also a problem. That doesn't mean I shouldn't be here protesting this one.
Also, none of them knew whether or not we have or have not protested the Catholic Church.
Yeah, they totally just assumed it.
They weren't doing anything about the Catholic Church either at that particular moment. So why are they asking us questions about that?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people just already decided that they didn't like us.
Yeah.
They didn't want us there. And especially the hot dog guy.
Yeah,
realistically. So I think that's pretty much everything that happened. Yeah, that is the long and short of it. Like I said, overall, it was good. I was surprised at some of the pushback that we got from the community. It was just kind of like, what is your investment in this? In hating on us? Whatever. Okay. But the funny thing is, I experienced as much of that as a Jehovah's Witness probably as I did protesting Jehovah's Witnesses. You know, I had people walk by and be like, no, thank you, to the flyers. And I was like, you know, oh, well. But at least this time I didn't think, I guess they're going to die in Armageddon for ignoring me holding them this pamphlet, you know. But, yeah.
Just sorry, before we start to close up a little bit more, somebody asked in the live chat earlier too, and I'm bringing this up also because I don't know specifically what the doctrine says. I know some of the stories, but what happens if somebody who doesn't have the 2-witness rule on their side, they reported it maybe to the elders and they were like, was there somebody else? And they said, no, fuck off. What happens if that person then goes and reports to the police?
I don't know if there is an official policy about this, but I know that some of those people have been shunned for reporting their own abuse to the police when the elders did not. Yeah, that has happened. I have heard those stories.
I think I've heard of people that were, I guess I don't know this for sure, but I think I've heard that people sometimes were asked to apologize for making accusations.
Yeah. Yeah, and they used to, fortunately they don't do this anymore, but they used to make it so that you had to talk to the person you were accusing. So basically they would sit children up in front of the child predators who abused them and have them accuse them to their face, which was, they've stopped doing that, fortunately. For once, they were like, we don't need to needlessly psychologically traumatize these kids, do we? That's not good for them, maybe. All right, we won't do that anymore. Like, I know that they can make tiny steps in the direction of reform. They've done it before. They, with the blood thing, they're okay with fractions, whatever that means, but not whole blood, even though that is a meaningless distinction. But yeah, they'll make tiny steps when it comes to things like that, but they won't budge on the big stuff. You know, they won't. I can't see it happening.
Yeah.
Which is why I need to raise awareness, because they're not going to change. So if the change isn't going to come from the inside, so people just need to know about it on the outside so that they don't get in the inside. So, yeah. Well, did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about with the protest that you could think of?
No. Maybe just once again talk about how funny it was that they had like a wall of people on both sides of the street.
Yeah, they really did. They had a wall. Yeah, when they got out, they had a wall of people on both sides of the street, on the convention side and on the protest side. They just, and it was just like, this is so culty. How can you guys not see this shit? We're just standing here with signs. What?
Oh, one thing too that I did is, because I am not as well versed on the issues as you, because you've personally lived them all, but I did want to do something that felt like I was the only one doing it a little bit. So as Jehovah's Witnesses walked by me, I greeted them very politely. Like, I just said, have a nice day, you know, how are you doing?
I couldn't do that because I knew half of those people. I couldn't do that.
They didn't know me. They didn't know I was an apostate. I think they assumed I was, because only one person out of the hundreds of people that must have walked by us said, thanks, you too. They didn't look at me when they said it, but everybody refused to look at me. Their kids tried to like be like, what's going on? You know, why can't we talk to these people? Which I thought was interesting. But
yeah, because the kids haven't had time to be as indoctrinated yet, so they don't know. But
all of these people coming out of a convention titled Love Never Fails wouldn't even greet a stranger who was just trying to say hi to them. Or
well, you said hi to them while holding a sign.
Yeah, but like my sign was the Love Never Shuns at the time, which was
that's extra ironic.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, the fact is they didn't know whether or not I was an apostate. They just made the assumption, I have to assume. And they refused to acknowledge my existence. And I was doing nothing but trying to be nice and tell them that, you know, that loving... Yeah, I didn't even say anything about the sign. I just said, have a nice day.
And that was what I was more trying to accomplish with the protest, was more of that. More of apostates being polite and very neutral and making it very clear the distinction between we don't hate you, we hate what your religion has done to you and other people. And yeah, I feel like only a few of us managed to accomplish that, and it might have been kind of messed up anyway by what some of the other protesters were doing, but regardless of that, like I said, net positive. So, yep, that will be it for this, unless anybody else has any more questions in the chat. So I will leave it open for a little bit more if anybody else has any more questions about the protest or anything. But as far as I can remember, that was pretty much all the major stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and I'm glad you guys all enjoyed yourselves. Oh, excuse me. I should lay off the soda. Yep. All right. Well, that is going to be it. A little bit over an hour. Good live stream. Thank y'all for coming. And I am X Cold Baby reminding you to go free yourselves. Thank you for watching.